to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, and also thank our friends over at Deepwater Wind for all their sponsorship and their support in making Business Monday happen. Want to welcome Dave Paolo. Dave runs G Media, one of the fastest growing advertising firms. But we're going to talk a little advertising, but really talk about kind of the lessons of business. Dave's been an entrepreneur for really the last 30 years in Rhode Island, and seen the biggest heights and the lowest lows. I really like this. We do a series with United Way, with emerging kind of stars in Rhode Island, young people, millennials. And my favorite question of it is, what was your biggest failures? And I think people learn so much from other people when they get a peek into that. Everybody goes through different successes and failures. And kind of want to talk to you. You know, 20 years ago, you probably had the hottest company in Rhode Island, LogOn America. Talk a little bit about it.
Well, I was young.
How young?
I was 28, and it was during the dot-com boom, and we took the company public. It was a $250 million IPO. It was the 5th best performing IPO in the history of the stock market at the time. So, for a 28-year-old kid to have that much success, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, and it was big news in Rhode Island. I mean, this wasn't just, and it was big news in telco, right? I mean, this was a hot company in telecommunications. This was a time of great change, and baby bells have been broken up. Everything was taking place. The internet was taking off. It was electric, right? I mean, we don't really see periods.
It really
of time
was.
Like
it
that.
was exciting. It exposed me at the time to a lot of major players in the telecom space, major players in the internet space, major players in the investment banking world, and I really kind of forged a really great investment banking education as a result of it.
And how big? Give us some size. How many employees?
We grew to somewhere around 300 plus employees.
And it was in Providence, the majority of
The
them.
majority of them were in Providence, but we did make some acquisitions, so we did have a good base of employees up in Maine and some of the other states, but the majority were right here in downtown Providence.
And listen, I was sitting on the sidelines. I can't remember if I was working for the state at the time or gotten over to RDW, and then as the dot-com one bubble burst, and nothing was like it. I mean, if you lived through it, I was at RDW, I think, at the time. It just literally, it had a hiccup in September. It started in December, and by March or April, the whole gosh darn thing just imploded, and companies were dropping, well-known companies were dropping left and right. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we were positioned a little bit differently. We were a very large company in size, comparably speaking to the region that we're in.
Yeah.
But as a whole, as a size of a company based on listed on the NASDAQ or listed or nationally, we were small. So we weathered through a lot of that.
Yeah.
But we did as young entrepreneurs, we did make mistakes here and there that had I looked at it today, if we'd gone a couple of different routes, we might have been able to weather through that. But you had you took in a lot of money from the banks.
Yeah.
And you were pressured every day by the banks to spend that money by doing certain things. And some of them, might not have been really the logical thing to do as an internet or telecom CEO, but you're getting pushed from a banker that doesn't really have that background.
And they want you to spend because they want you to take on more debt, more money.
They want fees.
They want fees, and they're trying to say, hey, get scale, get faster, get bigger.
I looked at it like this. I came up with an interesting analogy. The investment banks raised you $100 million.
Yeah.
They said, here, hold on to this $100 million until we can find a way to take it all back from you. Really, that's kind of the experience I had from that.
But there's a lot of lessons to be learned. I mean, it's too bad the state of Rhode Island didn't learn those lessons when they did 38 Studios, where they functionally asked 38 Studios. The way that deal was built was hire more people, we'll give you more money. Well, if you're a early stage, whether it's a company like 38 Studios or GoLocal or LogOn America or whatever, you're trying to preserve cash, not spend cash. You want to do things more efficiently. So deals get upside down. They're pushing you to spend, and you should be preserving. You walked out of that. When did your tenure with LogOn America finish up?
Well, we saw a trend in the marketplace with a portion of our assets and our
Yep.
users, so we began to sell those off, which we did, and then ultimately, we kind of sold off most of the pieces and then wound it down and went on our way.
What year was that?
That was in right around 2002 timeframe.
And you're out the door. The place is split up, sold off. And what did you do the next day? I mean, what was kind of your mindset after learning that as fast a pace, 28 to you're in your early 30s, and tell me a little bit about kind of what that experience was.
It's like riding a bike. So you fell off,
Yeah.
and the next you just get right back up and get back on and start going again.
Were your knees scraped though?
My knees, my elbows, my head. Yeah, sure. But it was an interesting experience, but it wasn't traumatic because you gained so much experience and you had so many contacts
Right.
that you knew that you could get up the next day, and even almost while it was kind of unwinding, you were kind of saying in your mind, okay, it's unwinding. You start putting together your thoughts and your processes on where you're going to go next and how it's going to. And I literally had a new company set up with a new piece of technology that I kind of learned about along the way,
Right.
and was up and running with a new office in Smithfield within a few weeks.
That's right.
And we filed a registration statement to go public again, but we never really needed to get to that point because that company ended up getting sold.
So the lessons you learned, a deeper appreciation of how to deal with investment bankers. You learned a deeper appreciation of understanding technology and how to protect assets within that scope. Now today, jump forward, 15 years later, you're running G Media. It was only founded 24 months ago. How old is G Media?
2015.
2015, so about 3 years ago.
Just about, yeah.
And you've grown it to be, right there with the other kind of Rhode Island big boys in advertising. You've got, I think folks have seen your president and COO. You've got a real significant leadership structure in the company, and you've got some significant clients. Talk a little bit about some of your clients.
Well, let me address kind of the leadership thing,
Yeah.
because I think that's a really important piece, and one of the things I learned along the way. So, when I was with LogOn America, it was I was a young person, young kid trying to run this company, and it was all about the power,
Yeah.
leading,
Yeah.
and the money,
Yeah.
and having control. And a true successful entrepreneur really is an entrepreneur that can really kind of delegate and give away control,
Yeah.
and finding the right people to do so. So I did that with G Media. I don't have an extensive advertising agency background. I have a business background and a banking background. So I can
You had
bring.
spent a lot of money with advertising
Sure,
agency
sure,
at LogOn
absolutely,
America.
absolutely.
Right.
And so I can find the resources to do what we need to do. I could put the deals together to do that. But then ultimately, we needed somebody. We needed a pro that in the space. And we went out to some relationships that we had, and there was this girl, Megan Decker, who was the global vice president of Omnicom, largest agency in the world.
Right.
And she had just had some twins. She had gone through some changes and needed a little bit of a change in the way that she conducted business as well. So there was an opportunity for me to bring her in, to make her the president, make her the COO, and have her run the agency for me.
Yeah.
So take all of that burden off me, and also take the potential pitfalls of mistakes that I might make, because she has that experience. And that's really the key of an entrepreneur, is trying to find those people, delegate those people, and then having the strict
And trust them.
right, trust them,
Yeah.
but also having the strict ethics to let them do their thing, and not try to overrule them and overrun them. You got to kind of let them do their thing, and that's when you get the success.
Absolutely. MetLife, been a client of yours.
So MetLife has been a client of mine since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a little luck fall upon you. So
Yeah.
I had a relationship situation with the outgoing CEO, and introduced me to the new CEO, and that generated for a chance for him to get in for a meeting. We went in, we laid out what kind of value we brought. It just happened to be within the wheelhouse that they were looking for,
Yeah.
and we ended up getting a huge contract with them, to a master service agreement with them, which is great. We're a approved vendor, so it's easy for us to get business out of them. to do all the experiential marketing for them nationwide. And we have been in some of their largest clients of MetLife on the ground doing experiential marketing for their clients in the country. And it's
Listen,
been great.
hate to disappoint you. You're not the only agency that's been on with us. RDW's been on. I think Duffy and Shanley, a few other folks. You're really seeing this massive shift in how to connect to consumers, and that's this isn't just in the olden days. It was kind of newspaper and local TV or national TV, and now it's really transformed. It's transformed into experiential marketing that you're doing with Med, a lot of social media, email strategies, a lot of it.
And guys like you who have really pioneered the digital space. So you have kind of with GoLocal have really kind of been, again, like I have been a lot of things, an early goer in the space. You kind of grew up in the space with it, and you kind of were a leader in a kind of a development of some of the way things operate.
Well, even a blind squirrel gets a nut once in a while.
I know. I've been that blind squirrel quite a many times.
You have enough bad ideas, darn percentages, you're going to come up with one half decent one once in a while. But what you've been able to do is, in a lot of cases, if you go up to Boston, that mid-size agency has decreased. There used to be 50 agencies of 30 to 50 people, and you've really found a structure to be able to tie some different things together and build kind of that kind of old school agency inside, but with a totally different strategy, and tap into the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and one of the things that we used in that process was, having the ability and the trust, again, not only for hiring, internal executives and employees, but also being able to work with other agencies as partners and being able to bring in subcontractors to do some work. So we don't have to pay the cost of having all things for all people inside, which a lot of times is a burden on certain agencies, because there may not be an abundance amount of work for that particular department at that time, but you're paying for it. So if you have the ability to have some partners that you can bring in to do those things, pay for what you need as a pay-as-you-go scenario, and then when you don't have those bills, that's a great way to kind of preserve cash and help you grow.
And it creates better efficiency for your clients, right?
Sure,
because
100%.
they're not paying for the overhead, they're not paying for the full-time staffers that are 7 deep in every position, because you can really go out and get the best and the brightest to tap into.
Correct.
So listen, you've gone high, low, you're building another. For folks, this is a small business economy in Rhode Island. I think people get caught up in the CVSs and the Textrons and the Hasbros. But the vast majority of people, how they earn their income is either they're running a small business or they're working for a small business. If for the entrepreneurs out there who are thinking about, maybe they have a 20-year-old business and they're trying to figure out how to rejuvenate it, or they're just started off in the last 24 months, what's a couple of the lessons you would suggest to them?
So it depends on what your exit is. So in every business that I've always tried to structure, my exit has always been to try to get some sort of liquidity for my shareholders or myself. So it's either a public strategy, which is very difficult, or a sale. So really, I kind of learned is really kind of you have to almost at the time that you're getting started, you have to kind of figure out where you're going to end as well, which is tricky, and it changes along the way. So you're the day one that you open the business and you say that this is going to be my exit. At halfway point, it may be completely different, but you need to be able to be flexible enough to say, okay, things are changing, and you have to kind of change with it all the time. It can't be just stellar focus on
a couple other things, and I know we've talked about it. Cash is king, right? Yes. If you can retain cash, it gives you tremendous flexibility. Also, we're in a pretty good economy right now, right? This is not the hardest time to attract. There's other times where things kind of spiral. One of the things is be ready, right? I mean, be ready that you can anticipate that the market might change and how things are. And down markets can be tricky, but down markets are also opportunities. I mean,
yes.
Nobody makes more money than Berkshire Hathaway in down economies than they do, right? They have a ton of cash on hand, and they go out and they very strategically lend money or make acquisitions during those period of time. So, how does that translate to the young guy who's starting a retail shop, or the family that just opened a restaurant? Those kind of lessons can also be transferred to those, right?
Sure. So
don't get overextended first and foremost.
No, and be patient.
Yeah.
Really patient. So there's really a fine line between being patient and waiting for an opportunity to really develop before jumping in too early. So make sure that it's the right one. And then also being deliberate on your decision making.
Yeah.
Make a decision and don't be wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line about patience and then being deliberate on your decision making process.
I'll say one of the things that I've heard is I always say never have a plan B. Right? I talk to young entrepreneurs and they say, well, I'm doing this, I'm gonna spend 18 months on it, but if it doesn't work out, then I'm gonna do this. Well, guarantee it's not gonna work. You're already thinking about the failure, right? And you've got to really approach it like it is survival. This is the Great Depression.
Plan B should always be, what am I going to do with all the money when I sell it at the exit? Really, that's because it has to be Plan B, because that gives you the motivating factor, the drive to get up every day and want to get in there and hustle.
Last thing, for those who, right now, good economy, feeling good about things, give them a couple checklists of things that they should be planning for.
As an entrepreneur in the
As
space.
an entrepreneur.
So
Small business owner.
So a small business owner really, in a good economy, you have to kind of try to remain competitive. So in a good economy, you're going to find that there are going to be a lot more competition in your space. So you need to really kind of find that your one niche that you're good at, and get in a competitive edge on it, and then really focus on that one niche. Don't try to be all things to all people. If there are other competitors that have different niches, don't try to jump in and try to take that niche away, because then you spread yourself too thin, find yourself burning through capital to try to do so. Really kind of find your niche, hone in on it, and then really try to find yourself a competitive advantage and a financial advantage at what you're good at.
Dave Paolo, CEO, founder of G Media, really want to thank you for coming in, having that honest discussion about all the different things that you go through as an entrepreneur over the years, big successes, big failures, all the fun of it all, and picking yourself up, cleaning yourself off. I really appreciate you coming on Business Monday. We're going to be right back in a second at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're going to have Neil Amper, who's over at Capstone Properties. He's been looking at for years data trends and reports relative to how the commercial real estate market functions in Rhode Island, and just came out with a new annual report, and we're going to take a peek into that. We'll be right back.